Hello and happy Friday, and thanks for tuning into RadioFreeRhinecliff.org. And this show in particular, correct me if I'm Norm, I'm your host, Norm, and I'm thrilled to be here tonight with Mr. Dave Tobias. Dave, thanks for coming in.
Good evening. I'm so honored to be here.
Well, the honor is all mine, I'm sure. How'd you like that music?
Loved it.
You only heard the last
very retro.
couple of seconds, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a theme song from a movie I really like. But you were saying, when we were talking about the music, when I was explaining there's like 60 seconds of music, that your daughter writes music.
Yeah, my older daughter is in the music industry, and she writes jingles and puts music on, arranges and writes music for YouTube stars, and so she's into that, exactly this kind of thing.
That sounds kind of awesome. Yeah. And does she make a good living doing that?
She's never asked for a penny, so she makes a living. I'm not sure if good would go before that word.
And how old is she?
She's 30.
30. So did she study music in college or composition or?
She did. I think she majored in drama, but she just has always had this lifelong interest in music, and she is not a virtuoso on any given instrument, but she kind of plays most of them and can write music like nobody's business. So maybe you should have her in here, not me.
Does she live in Rhinebeck?
No, she's in Brooklyn.
Oh, well.
But she grew up in Brooklyn. She grew up in Rhinebeck.
All
She's
right.
a Rhinebeck High School graduate.
Right. Well, I guess that probably counts.
There you go.
And so when she was living in your house, was the house always filled with music?
Yeah. We have a piano, and there are, I don't know, like 5 guitars, and she was always playing something. Yeah.
And do you make music?
I do. I'm certainly not even a hint of a professional, but and one of my goals at some point is to learn how to read music. I can play it, but I can't read. So that's my one goal.
Huh. And you recently retired.
I did. Just about 1 month ago, I left a career in environmental sciences for the great beyond, and I'm trying to figure out what. Yeah, it is. It is great, and it is beyond. I've never had a single day where I have not been working, and so it's a little weird, but it's a lot of fun. I love it.
Right. So before you retired, did you have a list of things you wanted to do, like learn to read music?
Exactly. I have a list of probably close to 100 things that I wanted to do, and one of the processes that I've pursued is I basically spent 6 weeks in Costa Rica trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up. And it turned out...
This was recently?
Yeah, like maybe 2 months ago.
Okay.
Right before I retired, I really just took a bunch of vacation. That's the way to do it, by the way. Anyway, so my goal was to go through this, dozens and dozens of, big objectives and figure out which ones were really going to, stick on the wall. And instead, I had like people were visiting, including both of my daughters. Every week I had a new visitor. I'm thinking, maybe I should just become an innkeeper.
Coming to visit you here in Rhinebeck?
In Costa Rica.
Oh, in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
An innkeeper.
We'll keep that on the list.
What are the? I see. Yeah. And what else is on the list?
Oh, Lord. I love photography. I love, as you perhaps saw, I love art and political cartooning. I have, an idea for the great American novel. I love playing tennis and getting outdoors and the sports. And, one of the reasons I decided to, and by the way, I think retire is just a really bad word. It should be something else like, rewirement or re-excitement or something like re-engaging.
Yeah. Right.
But our bodies only last so long. And I really wanted to, kind of get out before my body starts to fall apart. Right now, I have tons of energy and excitement about doing all these things. Travel is another thing I love to do. And so that's one reason I kind of picked this sweet spot. I just hit 63, and, I've had what I feel is a hugely fulfilling career. And now I want to figure out what the rest of my life is going to be about. So anyway, that's where I am.
And do you have a hunch that it's going to be about sort of like one thing, or that it's going to be about crossing things off of this list of 100 things you'd like to do?
I'm hoping it's going to be several pretty big things. I'm on the board of a couple of nonprofits, so I keep my hand in the mix with environmental interests.
Right.
And beyond that, I have, again, this sort of long checklist that I have to figure out exactly where I want to land. I do think it's going to be a number of arenas. And I was just talking to a friend the other day about travel, because we both love to travel. And so we were going through our hit list, our bucket list, and most of them were internationally. He said, well, what about in the U.S.? And that made me think, what about the U.S.? It's just such an incredible place, an incredible nation. And I realized that I have so many friends scattered around the country. I could make, practically a couple of years just touring the country, visiting friends, because a lot of them live in such amazing places. So that's yet another thing I'm thinking about.
And does Winnebago make any electric vehicles?
That's a really good question. I've been thinking about one of these teardrops, right? They tow behinds. They're these little tiny, they sleep maybe one, maybe two people, but they're really small. But they do the job, and it's pretty efficient. It's not a massive investment. You can probably turn it around after you're done with it. So I'm thinking one of these little teardrops you can pull behind a Prius.
A Prius, yeah. Nice. A hybrid.
Yes, right.
Huh. Well, so that sounds like a blast. And would you envision yourself working while you're towing this teardrop around the country, visiting friends?
I think so. I mean, I don't know what work really means anymore. It's sort of to me, it's just now like an amalgam of play, enjoyment, being with friends, and I guess perhaps some of it you might consider work. And I think there is some, I'm not quite perhaps done being gainfully employed, so something in there would happen along that line.
Gainfully employed? Do you think you would ever have another staff job?
I'm thinking perhaps a consultancy of some sort. For example, there is one element of my job. So I worked for New York City DEP for 28 years, doing environmental protection, specifically land acquisition throughout the watershed. It's a huge 2,000 square mile watershed. And
like million acres.
Yeah, just about exactly.
1.1
million acres.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And this is the New York City's
watershed.
Drinking water.
Exactly.
All water, sort of watershed.
Exactly. And most of it is up here in the Catskills, 90%, give or take. About 10% is down in Westchester County. So I kind of picked Rhinebeck because it was between the two major watersheds. And where was I going with this? So one of the really interesting components of the land acquisition program that I was with for almost 30 years is something called the flood buyout program. And that falls under the umbrella of managed retreat, which is this sort of a keyword for a process of removing developed land, development and infrastructure and facilities from floodplains and floodways, right? So you have all these, as the U.S. Was developed over the past 300-400 years, naturally it was an agrarian society for most of that, and farms and villages grew up on streams and on rivers. And so you have, climate change is bringing massive change, not just to coasts, but also to anywhere where there are floods. And that's along riparian zones. And so the flood buyout program is an effort, and it's not just in New York City's watershed, but around the country, to purchase developed lands in these flood-prone areas, and remove the facilities and the structures so that water can then pass through, and you have much less damage, much less threat to life and limb. And so I think that's sort of that's an arena I would really like to keep my hand in, and I'm hoping that there will be some consultancy efforts that might work out on that front.
I'll bet people are already sort of reaching out to you for that.
There are, actually. I won't mention who they are, but it's nice to be, kind of thought of as one of the folks who have, a good bit of experience in that arena.
Right. Well, you certainly do, as you said, nearly 30 years. And I noticed a couple of months ago you became a board member of another environmental organization down in Westchester.
Yeah, the Westchester Land Trust. They are a great organization. They really work throughout Westchester and beyond, Putnam County as well, a little bit in Connecticut. And we had worked with them when I was with DEP as well. And they, as you might guess, prices in Westchester County, if you're going to buy vacant land, are it's just astronomical. And so we need a lot of different tools to bring to bear in order to convince landowners that, their property is important enough to be protected. And another thing about the Westchester Land Trust is that it really sits at the crossroads of, it's in the middle of the tri-state area. If you're going to head north from New York City, you have to pass through Westchester County. It's really a gateway community, and as well as a commuting community. So there's just a lot going on there in terms of, obviously development activity. New York City's watershed is partly in Westchester County. And the Land Trust is not only doing protection of vacant land per se for forest and general open space, but also focused on farms and breadbasket issues and food deserts and urban parks as well. Yonkers is a pretty big city in Westchester County, and they deserve as much attention in terms of open space and access to recreational resources as anyone else.
What is a food desert?
A food desert is considered to be areas where there are good grocery stores, basically, accessible by, within, I don't know exactly what the time frame is, but, if you can't get to a grocery store within a few miles or a few minutes of your home, or the prices at those stores are astronomical, and your economic basis is not such that you can partake, then those are considered food deserts. And
interesting.
There's an effort to really fill those in with accessible and affordable foods.
So you recently, seems like looking at your LinkedIn page that you had sort of worked with this organization, and then just about the time you retired, you became a board member. And I was curious, is that just a coincidence, or was there something that prevented you from being on the board there while you were employed?
Well, that's exactly right. There would have been a conflict of interest.
Okay.
Whether perceived or actual doesn't really matter. I wouldn't want to be involved in a conflict of interest, so I waited until I was. They had asked me over time, and I said, let's just wait until after I'm gone from DEP, and then we can talk about that. So it happened pretty soon after that.
Right. And so was DEP a good place to work?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah,
It
I would
seems
say
like an amazing place.
It really was. I mean, I'd worked for this group called the Nature Conservancy. It was it's an international conservation group.
Sure.
I'd worked there for 7 years.
I get their calendars every year.
Sorry, say again?
I get their calendars.
Yeah, there you go. Most people, you can't avoid their calendars,
No.
right? So when I had worked there, the city came to me and said, look, we're looking to start this program to purchase land to protect New York City's water quality and public health. Would you consider it? And by the way, here's a budget of $700 million. And I said, yeah, I'll think about that. Okay, yes. So, that was a huge, right, because with your nonprofit like the Nature Conservancy, you've got to raise your funds.
Right.
The city's funds come from ratepayers. So, people who are paying their water and sewer bills, it goes right into city water infrastructure.
Right. And so where were you located when you were working for the Nature Conservancy?
That was in Westchester. It was in Bedford.
Okay.
Bedford Hills, Mount Kisco. At that point, that chapter really stretched almost all the way up to Canada. It was really the eastern half of New York State.
Wow.
Yeah.
How cool.
Yeah, it was another great place to work.
What a treat for this other job to kind of like come knocking on your door.
Yeah, it literally just fell in my lap, and it was a tremendous. I thought I'd be there 2, 3, 4 years, and I ended up being there almost 30 years.
So good.
Yeah.
And it seems like the Nature Conservancy would be a good place to work, apart from having to raise funds all the time.
Yeah, although I loved raising funds, and so if you like people and you're not shy of the ask, as they call it, working for a nonprofit is a great place to cut your teeth and learn the business, if you will. If you have an interest in in conservation and protection of natural resources, the Nature Conservancy and many others, land trusts are great places.
And have you worked for nonprofits between then and now? Sort of
No, I've only had
fundraising?
those. I mean, pretty much before the Nature Conservancy, I worked for a year or two for this group called Homeward Bound. It was a sort of an outward bound for youth at risk. That was up in Massachusetts. But really,
cool.
pretty much my whole career has been those two, Nature Conservancy and the New York City DEP.
Nice. And are you from around the Westchester area?
I grew up in Manhattan, and then I went to high school in Westchester, and I went to college in Dutchess, and, eventually I'll die in Canada. I just keep moving north.
Well, how did you grow up in New York City, then go to high school?
Oh, so when I was something like 13 or 14, my parents moved us upstate.
Okay.
To upstate, right? That's like
From
half an hour north of New York City now.
And where were you in the city?
Right around in Chelsea, right around Madison Square Garden.
Okay.
Yeah, real. At that point, it was a tough neighborhood. I would get mugged about once a month.
Still pretty tough.
Yeah. It's not nearly as tough as it used to be.
And who would mug you? That sounds horrible.
Well, it wasn't good. It wasn't a great experience for a kid who's 7, 8, 10 years old, right? But
Right.
It wasn't violent. But I still remember this. Every month you'd get a new bus pass. There were really these rectangular, really colorful cards, and that would let you get on the bus and go to wherever, your school, what have you, and those were very sought after. So I could kind of predict about the second or third of every month I would get mugged for my bus pass.
And then what would you do?
And then I'd have to figure out, where, I'd tell my parents and we'd have to go get another one. And, so, I mean, that's just one of those stories of growing up in New York City,
I guess.
Yeah.
And so did your parents say, well, listen, you need to learn karate?
Oh, yeah, exactly. How did you know?
No.
Yes, they put me in karate school.
Oh, no.
Absolutely.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was. I got all the way up. Let's see. I got way up to yellow belt, which they pretty much give you as you walk in the door.
So you got all the way there.
So that's where I got to.
How long did you do that? And the follow-up question is, did it come in handy later on?
It didn't. I mean, look, I'm a very, as you know, personally, I'm a very competitive person, but I'm not a violent person.
Right.
So I never use that against anybody, and probably wouldn't think about it unless I had to. But bottom line is, when I was about 12 or 13, my parents said, "Well, enough of this. Let's let the kids are it's not a great place to raise kids if they're getting mugged every month or two." So they moved us up to Westchester County, and that had its own challenges, moving into a neighborhood school where all the kids knew each other since kindergarten.
Right.
And you're the alien coming in. So it took me a couple of years to break through there. But
and you had one or two or a few siblings?
I have a sister, yep. She's 2 years younger. She's out in Cooperstown. And so the whole family picked up and moved upstate.
That's funny. And did you have a different accent from the kids?
I don't think so.
Quote, upstate?
I'm told that I don't have a heavy accent of any sort that's recognizable.
We don't now, but Madison Square Garden might have sort of some kind of a micro patois
atmosphere.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something I don't remember. But you're walking around a new school and you're just immediately recognized who that's a new face.
Right.
That kid did not grow up here.
And how big was the new school?
Oh, I think it was.
Was it comparably sized?
It was about 120 a class, maybe. So
That's
500 in the school.
That's nice sized.
Nice size to work your way through the cliques and the bullies. Yeah, but I had a good time after a year or two of getting through the tough parts.
So did you start there in like 7th or 8th grade, or?
I started there in 8th grade. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But seriously, how long did it take to sort of find your footing?
2 years. 2 years. Yeah.
And was there a breakthrough moment that that's when things changed?
I think so. I kind of think back to a time we used to play at lunch. We used to, snarf up our food and then go outside and play. And it was always kill the guy with the ball. So, if you remember how that goes, whoever has the ball, you chase them down and you pummel them into the ground, and then somebody else gets the ball.
Yeah.
And it's a ridiculous game.
Yeah.
But I loved it. It was really fun because I would grab the ball and have a huge amount of fun running, basically avoiding being caught. And eventually we just did without the ball, and it was Kill Dave. And so they would run around trying to catch me. And eventually, I remember this, the principal...
This is when you knew you were accepted.
Yeah, exactly. I knew when it was Kill Dave, I'm thinking, okay, I'm in.
Eventually, the principal what?
The principal said, what the hell are you guys doing out there? And we all kind of, came over and looked at our shoes and was, kill the guy with the ball. And he goes, where's the ball? And everybody pointed at me. And he sent me home.
Really?
I remember that very clearly. Well, I have no idea why, but I got sent home that day.
And did you get in trouble with your parents?
Yeah.
Because I've been I am a parent. If a kid said, well, he sent me home for no reason, I'd be like, Yeah. I'd be calling the school. What's the reason?
Yeah. I think at that point, my parents were like, well, okay, whatever. He's going back to school in a day or two. So, it's not the end of the world.
But it's interesting that this was an answer to the question. Like, was there a particular point in time where you felt you had...
I think that was it.
Become accepted.
I think that was it. Yep.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. But you're happy.
I'm happy. It worked for me.
It's seemingly well adjusted.
Yeah.
Me, I sort of thought the story was going to go, then you became a running back in the football team. And it was all state or whatever.
Nope.
Because it'd be,
Nope. It didn't go in that direction.
If Ron Howard were directing the movie, it would have. So did you play sports in high school?
I did. I did mainly cross country at that time. Yeah.
Did you play tennis?
I did not play tennis at that time. Nope. Nope. Just really running was my thing at that time.
And what was your event?
We did what? I mean, it was...
Right, they have different events.
Yeah, in cross country. Well, in cross country, my recollection is that we just ran 5Ks. Like, we would face off with every school and run a 5K. And I never came in, I don't think I ever came in first. I might come in second or third. I was never, really the fastest. But I got to be the, co-captain with one of my buddies who did come in first every time.
Oh, that's nice.
It's all just learning. It's a socializing. It's getting to know, how to work with people and how to deal with bullies and all of that. And
then you moved north from there, Ardsley High School, right? And where'd you go? Where was your next stop north?
And then I went to Vassar College undergrad.
Okay. Then what did you think you wanted to study?
Well, at that point, I was thinking, okay, I think it's either going to be medicine or environmental sciences. And environmental sciences were just not a thing back then.
Right.
There's certainly no major. So I majored in biopsych, and then I decided I would take biopsychology, and now it's called neurophysiology, so the study of the brain and neurons. And they still have that major, but I wasn't sure. I still wasn't sure whether it was medicine or environmental sciences for me.
Right.
So I went to work at a hospital up in Boston doing biomedical research to, kind of interact with physicians and researchers and be part of a lab and see how that worked for me. And I don't know, for me, I know this isn't sort of a clear-cut decision for anyone, but for me, it really felt like medicine treated a lot of symptoms that were and diseases that were caused by environmental problems. So I decided that I wanted to go into the environmental side of
pretty profound thought for a 20-year-old.
Yeah, I guess so. But I really wanted to make a difference. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I would send my, lawn mowing and snow shoveling money off to these groups like the Nature Conservancy and Sierra Club and NRDC. So I always had that interest, but as a kid, you don't know what careers are out there. And even when I got hired by the Nature Conservancy, it was all on-the-job training, on-the-job learning. I had no real clue what it entailed.
And were your folks into what back then was the ecology movement?
My dad, not really. My dad would take us. So growing up in Manhattan, my dad would take us out hiking or skiing just about every other weekend. He was a big outdoorsman.
Oh, nice.
And so I think that's where I got a lot of exposure to, being outside, even though I grew up in the city.
Right. Okay, so you came north and you started studying this. Where was your next stop north?
After Vassar.
Yeah.
So after Vassar, as I mentioned, I went to Boston. And
But
then
was that for good?
no,
Or was that just a
that was
look-see?
well, that was working in that biomedical research lab.
Right.
So that was a couple of years there, and then I decided to get my master's and moved down to New Haven. Got my master's. That was 2 years, and then
In what?
in environmental sciences.
Okay.
And then the Nature Conservancy hired me right out of grad school.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool.
it was a good run.
Was. Well, it sounds like it still is. Now you're joining another board.
Yeah.
And there's other people courting you for consulting work and stuff.
I like to think so. We'll see how it works.
And how's it going being retired? You're at home now, presumably.
Yeah, I do travel a lot. I'm
Okay.
about to visit my sister out in Cooperstown. As I mentioned, I spent 6 weeks in Costa Rica. After that, I spent a week in Montana with 2 photographer friends. And I'm hoping to get out to the Camino de Santiago. It's a trail that kind of webs through Portugal, Spain, and France, or Italy, I'm sorry. And I'm hoping to I need to do more research, of course, as you can see, but I'm hoping to get there in March or April or so. So travel will be a big part of my time going forward.
And do you travel a lot by yourself, or you travel with family, or with your
Both.
wife?
Both. So I'll, as I mentioned, both of my girls came down separately to visit me in Costa Rica, and what really worked out there was, so I rented this little cottage from some friends that I had known since grad school. I kept in touch with this family. So I rented this little cottage up on the mountain, and that way I could be in a place where people could come and go. So both of my girls visited. My sister and my wife were going to visit, but that got canceled for one or another reason, but I expect that they will visit next time.
Nice.
Yeah.
And when might that next time be?
Well, as I say, so when I hit the Camino in March or April, I'm thinking that I've already worked out with a couple of friends that they'll come down and walk a week of it with me, then leave. I'll continue on my own. Both of my girls will join, and so on. So I think that will be kind of a really nice setup for friends to come visit while I'm hiking that trail.
Nice. And will you...
You're invited too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Will you train for that?
No, it's not. It's not like an ultra marathon. It will, and I'm not doing it for any speed purposes. What I really love is the idea of, and I've done this on sales that I've been lucky enough to partake in too. You travel, you sail for a day, or you hike for a day, and you end up in a village. You end up in some medieval walled village, and then you spend the afternoon, evening exploring it, and you get back on the trail maybe the next day, maybe in 2 days, because it's a lovely place.
Right. But how long are the days of hiking?
I imagine they'll be anywhere from 5 to 10 hours a day, something like that.
Yeah. See, I would have to train for a year.
Oh, you play tennis for 2 hours without dropping a bead of sweat. You're good for it.
Well, I don't know how that happened. Maybe, but yeah, I would feel like I would need to train anyway.
I think you'd be surprised how quickly you could ramp up from 2 or 3 hours of walking a day to 5 or 6.
2 or 3 hours of walking a day.
Yeah, well, again, you just played tennis for 2 hours without...
It's true. It's a lot of steps.
Yeah.
Interesting. I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
And do you walk? Lots of people walk around here.
I do walk. I tend to bike. I do a lot of biking, which is just, for me, it's just, it's less pounding on your body.
Yeah.
Certainly than running, but walking's good too. Yeah.
Right. Now, listen, we got to stop for a second. The tradition here on this show is that the guest brings in a cocktail for us to enjoy. And you have brought in something that's not quite a cocktail, but I think we're going to enjoy it a great deal.
I hope so.
What do you have?
So yeah, I mentioned that I'm not a big drinker. Don't love alcohols, and there are these cookies, these chocolate chip cookies. Can I mention the source?
Yeah, sure. I'm opening mine now.
Joe B's is a little sandwich shop in Kingston, right pretty near the DEP office where I used to work, and these cookies are just, I think, astounding. So I got you cookies and milk all around.
I love that.
This is what I call white wine.
White wine.
So enjoy it. This is.
So you said you're not much of a drinker. Are you not much of a drinker, or do you not drink at all?
I don't drink at all. I just don't like alcohol. I never did. And
Did you give it a fair shake?
I did. I had one of my best buddies, who you've had on the show, Jeff Zachariah, is a huge wine aficionado, and he's tried for most of our joint lives to get me to drink and
To enjoy some nice wines.
yeah, he's poured 61 Lafitte's, and I've kind of I told him you're kind of wasting it on me, but
You still won't taste them.
I taste,
you do.
I do a taste.
I see.
And I don't really understand.
So what kind of white wine are we drinking right now?
This is low fat Ronnie Brook, fresh from the farm milk.
And do you dip your cookie in the milk?
I tend not to, but please indulge. Dip away.
I'm going to take a sip of the milk first. I don't drink milk. Do you drink milk often?
I do. I love milk. Yep.
It's amazing. I probably have not had a sip of straight milk
Really?
in like 45 years.
Oh my God! I hope I'm not. I don't know, denting your lifestyle here.
I think you probably are. But now I'm dipping the cookie in the milk.
Okay, you go, girl.
Well, so now we got to get Joe B's and Ronnie Brook as sponsors of the show.
There you go.
Yeah. That cookie's
We'll have to send them copies.
That cookie is really good.
Is that great? Yeah.
I was skeptical because I like to make cookies myself.
Ah,
It's
okay.
a really good cookie.
I'm glad you like them. Yeah. No, I think they're great.
Thank you for bringing it. All right, so where were we? You were, oh yeah, I wanted to ask, what is it like? I mean, I assume you don't have an office outside of the house because you had an office in Kingston,
Right.
with the DEP, and so now you're home a lot more. How's that going with the missus?
So my girls come up to visit a bit, and I have yet to visit them in Brooklyn, which I need to do. And I also travel around visiting friends, my sisters, as I mentioned, in Cooperstown. So I get out a lot, and I'm also either playing tennis or biking or doing work outside.
So you're not sort of underfoot.
So I'm not underfoot, and I'm not in the house a huge amount. Yeah.
And is she out of the house often too? I'm sorry, I'm dipping the cookie in the milk.
Oh, that's fine. She tends to have a huge number of meetings, and she works on Sinterklaas and the Greenwich Village Halloween Parade.
Oh, she does that. She
Yeah.
works on both of those with Gene Fleming.
With Gene Fleming, exactly.
Who was on the show at one point.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Huh. Now, for Sinterklaas, and God bless her for her work, one of the things I happen to know she does is she's the Grumpus Wrangler
That's a tough job.
and the choreographer for the Grumpuses.
Yep.
And
And you're going to ask me why I'm not a Grumpus.
I wasn't going to.
Okay,
but
good.
Now I've
Don't
got to.
think about that.
Why? How come you're not a Grumpus?
Oh, because
You must have been asked.
Yeah, no, I think that's her purview. Let her run that show.
I see.
Yeah, we've each got our own worlds.
Yeah. It's a fabulous world, the Sinterklaas thing. It's one of the most beautiful.
It really is. I
Things-
hope it continues for a long time. We'll see.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah.
Huh. So one of the things you do for Sinterklaas, I'm not sure if it's official or not, is you photograph it.
Yeah.
Are you the official Sinterklaas photographer?
I am, although I think Gene now has 2 or 3 to get complete coverage. So yes, I'm one of them, and I love that because I can just stay behind my camera and shoot beautiful images of these fantastic faces. You know, your Grumpus faces, the dances, the kids, which is what it's all about. I love photography, and
It is quite a spectacle.
it's an amazing. Yep.
And have you always been into photography?
I have, yes. I've always been into photography. I can't say I'm a good or great photographer, but I love it.
What kind of photography do you mostly do?
I do well. I'll do as you know. So Sinterklaas trying to get the perfect shot. The polar bear. High fiving with a 7-year-old.
Right.
But also in Costa Rica, I really got into taking pictures of animals. So these really incredibly rare birds are there. The quetzal and the bellbirds and motmots and just spectacularly colored birds.
So you're always buying longer and longer lenses.
Exactly. Although I did I did order a 600 mil, and that one arrived, and it was like, I don't know, 14 pounds. And I'm like, no, I'm not walking around with this thing.
Yeah. Huh. And so what kind of detail from what kind of distance could you get with a 600 mil lens?
Well, the 600, you could be, I don't know, you could be maybe 400 or 500 feet away and get a pretty good portrait shot of say, a crow, or I'm just trying to pick something everyone knows the size of. But you can do pretty well with 300 mil. That's what I have, and it worked out just fine.
And so you have to use something to stabilize it. You use a tripod, or?
I actually don't, and it's really, once you whip out your tripod, you probably miss the shot. Some of these birds are so quick and fleeting. So I find that it's just you got to be quick on the trigger, and sometimes they're really hard to find. You can hear them, but you can't see them. So you've really got to sort of find just the right position to see through all the leaves and all the trees and branches. And often it's not convenient for a tripod. So you just got to hold still and put your vibration reduction system on. And
what is that?
Hope for the best. They're making lenses now where they are cutting down on vibration within the camera.
Which is like from your hand, not holding it perfectly steady.
Exactly. So it'll reduce it, and it does a really good job. So if you don't have a tripod, it's a nice feature to have.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So in your last trip to Costa Rica a few months ago,
yep.
What were some of the best shots you got?
Oh, I've got some really good shots of the quetzal. That's really the bird of choice. I mean, if you're down there in some parts of Costa Rica, pretty much up on the Continental Divide, you want to see the quetzal, and that's right where I was. And they're hard to see, they're hard to hear, but when you find them and you get a good shot, it's really kind of it's a little mind blowing that there was ever a bird designed like the resplendent quetzal.
The resplendent quetzal.
Yes, it is named well.
And now I'm going to Instagram. Did you get a picture and post on Instagram?
I don't think I ever posted my quetzal, but I will send you that photo.
I would love to see that.
Sure.
Why would you not post that? I mean, is Instagram post shaming you?
Yeah, you are. And it's just because I just haven't gotten around to it, so I will. And in the meantime, I'm going to pull it up right now to show you, because this is radio, and I know that, you and your constituents really want to see this picture.
Yeah, for the people at home, how do you spell it? K-E-T-S-E-L?
Q-U-E-T.
Q-U-E-T.
Q-U-E-T-Z-A-L.
Wow.
Quetzal.
Q-U-E-T-Z-A-L.
That's it.
Quetzal.
That's it. And,
so
anyway,
if you're listening live at home right now and don't know, though probably lots of birders tuned in tonight to hear you talk.
I don't know about that.
Like, while you're looking at that,
yep.
Several people I talked to about you to prepare for this said ask about his frisbee, his frisbee fascination.
Oh, what can I say? Growing up, as a kid, you play frisbee, and I got into it, and I've been playing it ever since, and my kids love it, and it's just I don't know, it's a great sport.
And when you say playing, here's the quetzal. Wow, what a gorgeous bird.
Yeah, and the tail goes 2 or 3 feet. You can't even see it
look at it all the way down there.
Yeah.
What an amazing shot.
It's an incredible bird.
How did that happen that you got this shot? What were the circumstances?
Well, you're walking through the cloud forest, which is where they live, and you're listening for their call, which is their name is resplendent. You'd think they'd have an incredible call. No, it's more like... And in the noise of the jungle, you can sometimes not even hear it.
Wait, that's the actual name, resplendent quetzal?
That's their call. That's it. So you're listening for that, and when you find it, then you got to find the bird. And that is often impossible. I know people have gone down there for weeks just looking for it and haven't been able to find it. But we got lucky. It landed right on that branch, and, en flagrant, there it is. And, I got some good shots. And there are tons of people who have fantastic shots of the quetzal. I'm far from the only one.
Right. So how far away from you was it?
Probably 100 feet.
That's pretty close.
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, they're a little shy, and you don't want to scare them off, of course. And it was nesting season, so you really don't want to, kind of bother them. But yeah, it was a good view. It happened to be a really good spot. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
And do you have a shot? Do you print many of these shots?
I don't think I've ever printed a shot yet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So they all
exist on digitally, yeah.
On your computer and hopefully an external hard drive, a backup drive.
One would hope,
and
yes.
a backup to the
Yes, it's the story. It's the story of our culture today, right?
It is. Well, you don't want to lose those memories.
Yeah, no, it's true. And of course, every 10 years, the media changes from, whatever DVD to something else. And you just got to keep up.
When did you start shooting photos?
Oh, I must have been 15.
So you were shooting film at that point.
Oh, yeah. I remember sending, those little rolls of film off to Seattle Film Works and waiting 2 weeks for them to come back. Yeah.
Right.
And wasting, untold hundreds or thousands of dollars on, shots that you would never care about. But now it's boom.
But then they come back and it was like you'd won the lottery. It's like, here's all these pictures.
Yeah. Although even today, it's like 1 in 100 that you really should be keeping, right? I mean, it's the rest are just filler.
So do you ditch photos? You go through photos, no.
Definitely ditch, and I should be ditching more. I should be deleting, 90% of what I take.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting you don't print any of them.
Yeah, I'm thinking if and when I get to the point of having the right space, I will, I'll do that. But right now, I've just, I've got pictures of the kids up and paintings by Richard Prowse and, that kind of thing.
Right. And what does the right space look like? Would it be around here?
I think, yeah.
You joked about moving to Canada.
That's true. Well, that's in a while. I am. Yes, I think Rhinebeck and the Hudson Valley are certainly my center of gravity. I'll always be coming back here. It's just an amazing area.
Yeah.
And as you pointed out earlier, it's more and more people realize it. So it's harder and harder to, kind of stay or find the perfect place. But I'd like to find a little farmstead, an old farmhouse with a couple of outbuildings and 10 or 50 acres, something like that. So that's another thing on my
10
list.
or 50?
10 or 50 or 100, yeah, it depends where,
yeah.
Right? I mean, you can get 100 acres out towards Cooperstown for, what you can get here for 5 acres.
Right.
So it depends where I kind of land, but I think I'll always be, Rhinebeck is in my blood now. Yeah.
Right. Huh. So the other main thing that I know that you photograph, in addition to the nature, is Sinterklaas. Do you have a favorite photo from that?
Oh yeah, it's you guys. It's the Grumpuses.
It's the Grumpuses.
Absolutely.
You don't have to butter me up.
I think it's real. It's a photo of you guys as
Maybe
you turned around.
Butter up Martha, the Grumpus Wrangler.
There you go. You turn around and you throw those. What do they call those? Those white.
The streamers.
The streamers.
Yeah.
That is just I always try to get that shot because it's so impressive, right? It's you're in full costume. And then you've got these like explosive fireworks of streamers coming out. It's just great.
Right, and the lights. And there was a picture from last year's Sinterklaas on the stage. It's like the finale.
Yeah.
And the Grumpuses are throwing these things.
Yeah.
And it's a spectacular photo. Was that you?
I hope I took that one. I don't know. I don't know which one you mean.
Huh. Well, I'll bet it was because I think it came to me through sort of the Sinterklaas people.
Okay. Well, it could have been me. I'd have to see it.
Right.
But it is, that's just the moment when you guys are at your best.
That's funny.
Yeah.
There's so many beautiful, it's a photographer's dream, Sinterklaas.
Yes, exactly.
As much as Costa Rica would be.
Yeah, no, photographers should come to Sinterklaas. It's an amazing moment in life, in history, right? It's one day a year.
Right.
And the images are so spectacular. And just watching the kids, it's all about the kids and watching them, with these starry-eyed faces and smiles on, and they're not scrolling.
Great.
It's just brilliant.
Right. So you're shooting all these beautiful images.
Yeah.
and they live on your computer.
No, well, those I pack right off to Jean Fleming, who runs the show, and she presumably picks the ones that deserve to be, used for publicity and what have you. So, but yes, I have them all, of course.
In say the Costa Rica photos,
Yep.
You go down there, you spend a lot of time trying to get the picture. It seems like it's all about the hunt and less about the product.
You're right. You're right, and that's a question I should ask myself. What am I doing with these? It's really a blast to track these animals and these photos wherever they might be,
right? To
track them down, and then what? You
photo safari.
Yeah, you post them on Instagram, and the part of the challenge is that there are so many fantastic photographs and photographers out there,
right?
And it's just my goal is not to become a famous photographer. It's just to take good pictures and hope that people enjoy them.
And what are some of the other things you enjoy taking pictures of?
You're there. Okay, so this sounds ridiculous, but I love clouds, and when you see incredible cloud formations, it is really just those are works of art as well.
I love clouds. Do you know the Cloud Appreciation Society?
Oh no. I need to join that.
Yeah, you can. I think it's on Instagram. And,
excellent.
Yeah.
I'll look that up.
And there are books on clouds and
just
pictures of clouds.
Yeah, and when you're up in, say, an airplane and you get a clear window and sunset or spectacular formations, it's really cool. And for that matter, any beautiful sunset, and there are countless incredible scenes and view sheds in the Hudson Valley.
Right. But again, you shoot it, you put it on Instagram, you're not making prints of it.
Yep.
It seems very much that it's about the hunt.
It's about, I guess.
What do you get from that moment?
Yeah, what do you get? It's a
good
question. It's a good question. I think it's if I think about it deeply, it's about capturing a fleeting moment in some way to share it with others, right? Because otherwise, it's just if you're not taking pictures, you're taking in the moment, but there's no way to share it with anyone else. And for me, it's about connecting with other people.
Right.
And so even if I printed it and put it on my wall, there's not going to be a lot of people seeing it. So, I do try to take my best shots and post them online. But it's not like I'm a professional photographer either. So
do you feel it brings you closer into that moment, into the appreciation of that moment when you capture it?
I think it does. It's a double-edged sword because there's also, I think, the sense that you can never really capture what you're seeing without the camera with your own eyes. But it's kind of the best we can do. And, I guess there's something about capturing the moment and sharing it with others, which is meaningful to me.
Okay. And do you have, is there living in your brain a repository of like images you wish you had captured, but you missed for whatever reason? You scared the bird off. You couldn't pull the car over the side of the road or whatever.
There are so many out of focus shots. Yes.
Well, not out of focus, but like the photos that you just couldn't get.
Yes, that too.
And what are some of those that you still remember, if any?
Lord, no. I mean, that's a hard question because there's no image of it. But I would say more directly, it's the otherwise perfect shot, but it's out of focus.
Right.
That is really frustrating.
That sounds really frustrating.
Yeah. But it's part of the. Not every photo is going to be perfect, and you just got to live with that.
Now, somebody said that you're also an artist, not just a photo artist, but also a visual artist, and a cartoonist.
I did. I guess So when I decided to go to work in the field of environmental conservation, I put aside a lot of other passions that I have, like cartooning, political cartooning, visual arts, music arts. And so now is for me, it's the moment to get back into those. And I haven't yet dove into those, but that's my plan, to get back to those passions. Yep.
Right, cartooning and political cartooning.
Yep.
Now is a pretty good time for both
Exactly.
of those.
And that I really need to get my act together on, because the election's coming up and time is drawing near.
Right. And so you're going to be doing political cartoons. I'm looking at some of your cartoons right here, and they're great. What will you want to happen with your political cartoons?
Look, I think the hope by every political cartoonist is to influence people's thinking on something, and to shift their thinking, to create one image which kind of exemplifies some irony or some extremity of ideas that they had not considered before. This goes way back to Punch magazine in the UK in the mid 1800s, I think, is where, probably before that. But, I think the idea is to the ideal is to influence people, their thinking and their actions, their votes.
Right. And do you think you've ever made a political cartoon that has done that for some people?
I don't know. Some of the issues are so big. I remember one I did a long time, when Reagan was president, and it was a picture of Reagan and Nancy holding a baby. The baby was a bomb, and it was, the words underneath was the American nuclear family.
Oh, boy.
And, sort of my hope was to get people thinking about, the dangers of nuclear weapons and all of that. I have no idea if it influenced anybody. I have no idea what the playthrough was, what the publication numbers were. So who knows?
So are you generating ideas for political cartoons now?
Yes, I am right now. And I hesitate. So. I hesitate to, I don't want to upset any of your constituents with with a leaning one way or the other.
Yeah.
So I'll just say that when I get my act together and those cartoons come out, then they'll be out.
Huh. And where might they come out? At the very least, Instagram. I guess.
Don't know. I guess Instagram.
But the Hudson Valley Pilot is a little newspaper-ish thing.
Yeah, I might send them around. And see who picks them up. Who knows? I don't know yet. I don't know if they'll be any good. I don't know if they'll be good enough for anyone to pick them up. So we'll see.
And what do you use? What implement do you use?
I've always used just plain pen and ink. These days I might try digital. There's this fantastic program called Procreate. Isn't that a great name? Procreate.
I guess.
So you use a digital pen on a screen and on a tablet.
Right.
So I might try that. Yeah.
Have you tried that in the past?
Yeah. It works pretty well.
Huh.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I've never tried. I don't think I've ever tried that.
Yeah, give it a shot. In fact, next time I see you, I'll bring it and you can try it out.
Oh, I'd love to try that.
Yeah.
I try signing my name on one of those pads with my finger.
Yeah.
That never works out very well. Well, I can't wait to see some of them.
Yeah, me too.
Some of these cartoons. And do you have like a drafting table and a light?
I do, and I can't wait to get it out again. It's been packed in mothballs for 30 years, so I'm pulling it out. And
what a treat! Well, let me know if you need help pulling it up from the basement.
Sure, thank you for offering. It's a little embarrassing that I couldn't get my act together during the years of working formally, but I didn't have, you get home at whatever 6 and you want to take a bike ride and then
And were you a doodler? Did you doodle in meetings and stuff?
No, I doodled in high school, but not in professional
not in the
settings,
professional
no.
world. Right, because I read something not too long ago that said when you're doodling in a meeting or a speech or whatever, you actually retain a lot more.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've always thought that if you're caught doodling, you not great leadership skills, right? If your staff are seeing you doodling while you're running a meeting. So
I guess we need to get their heads right.
That's right. We need to straighten them out.
His retention.
Right.
Straighten him out. Somebody else said that you were a big Monty Python fan.
Yeah. I mean, I do remember as a kid, my father loved, what was it called? Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So every, whatever it was, I don't know, Friday night or Saturday, he would turn that on. And yeah, I definitely got hooked on that. One of my favorite movies is Life of Brian. Just brilliant.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah. Why is a spoiler alert coming up?
No, I was just wondering if you knew what a fantastic, irreverent production that was.
I grew up watching all that stuff, the Flying Circus,
Yeah.
on TV, on UHF,
Yeah.
back in the day. And I think about it a lot. I had my own kids. I sat them down and said, "You need to listen to some of these comedy albums." I mean, I think humor really stretches your brain.
Yeah.
And so yeah, think about that. Do you have a favorite sketch?
Good question. I think the Haggle skit, or the Haggle, what is it called?
I'm not sure. It's not ringing a bell.
It's in Life of Brian, and it probably lasts about 3 minutes. And Brian wants to buy a fake beard, and so the guy behind the counter says, "Well, that'll be 20 shekels." And Brian says, "Well, here you go." He goes, "What? No. You got to haggle for it. Say 15." Yeah. So he goes through. It's just a great scene.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now I want to watch Life of Brian again.
Yeah, you should. It's fantastic. It's a perfect combination of irreverence, humor, and irony.
And do you watch any of that stuff?
No,
recently?
I can't. I don't watch a lot of TV anymore. No.
How did that happen?
I don't know. There's just so much more to do. There's so much screen out there, right? So I try not to. I mean, it's inevitable. You're going to see some, whatever. My kids say you got to watch the series or you got to see this movie. So you're gonna be pulled in. So I just try not to, do it beyond that.
So you do get pulled in to watch.
I do get. Oh yeah, it's not like I watch nothing, but I try not to do it on my own. I try to do it with others and make it sort of a social, something with other people.
Sure, at least with one other person.
At least with one, yes.
And what have you seen that really resonated?
Well, right now, so my younger daughter Sarah has instructed us to watch the series The Bear.
Oh boy!
And it's I have to say it's fantastic. Yeah.
Isn't? I watched a couple episodes.
I think episode 4, season 2 is just mind-blowing.
It did not seem relaxing in the least.
Probably not relaxing. That word would not necessarily fit.
Yeah.
But it's really yeah, I think it's phenomenal television. And
what do you like about it so much? Acting, writing.
I don't know. Okay. So what struck me as I've been watching it recently are the close-ups. Like almost, certainly not every, but a lot of each episode is just a face.
Right.
Like it's kind of and I love faces. I love people. So when you're seeing the emotion and the speech and the reactions so close, I mean, it's just a face on the screen.
Right.
I think I can't remember many other productions that are just closed in on a face.
Huh. Interesting. Do you ever shoot people? Portraits?
I hope you mean with the camera.
Yeah, with the camera.
And yes. Yeah, it's really fun
Nice.
to try to get those moments of relaxation and, try to draw out their personalities. Yeah.
Right. I mean, do people ever sit for you, or do you capture them at like Sinterklaas or?
The latter, for the most part.
Right.
I think I'll probably try to get back into, portraits per se, but I haven't done that in a couple of years.
It's on the list of 100 things you want to do in your retirement.
Yes.
And I hope this was one of them, because now you can cross it off. It's been an hour.
I was so honored when you asked, and really so excited all day to get here. So thank you.
Thanks for coming. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Have a fabulous Friday and a wonderful weekend. And special thanks to Dave Tobias for being here.
Thanks, Norm.
Take care.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.